Thank you everybody for being here. Nice to see a lot of familiar faces. I also have recently learned that I've got awkward ears wearing this microphone, so thank you for being here. A lot has happened in the industry over the past couple of years, and I think we can all agree that it is feeling different now than it was pre-pandemic, and that feels very much here to stay. That's a combination of renter expectations, that's a combination of technology, and that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a talk around the renter landscape, both who the renter is and their expectations of us, both as technology providers as well as property management companies. We're going to talk a lot about centralization, and we will finish with Gen AI and our product, Leah Pro. Who here has been to NAA more than maybe 4 or 5 times? Lots of hands. So my first NAA was 2014, and there are 2 times as many attendees this year compared to 10 years ago. And I think that's very representative of the amount of change that's happening in our space, both from a technology standpoint as well as from a renter standpoint. And one of the big shifts has been the preference of renting over buying. Partially that's driven by price. I did a quick Google search this morning, and in Philadelphia, the average home price is $285,000. And in 2021, when rates were in the high 2s, that would have cost someone as a first-time homeowner about $1,200 per month as a mortgage. And today, that rate's about 7.5%, and that home would cost them about $2,000. And the stat here is that right now, if you look at an average rent compared to the average mortgage price, it's 40% cheaper to rent versus owning. So renters are here to stay, we know that. The second thing is they're preferring urban living. If you look at millennials, I'm an elder millennial. If you look at Gen Z, there is a preference to live closer to the city right now. Families are being started much later in life. Families are also much smaller, so they can choose the city amenities that we all feel and love. And there's a digital first experience. I think we can all relate that our experiences that we have with other big brands impact the expectations we have of any company that we interact with. So we all need to realize that we're competing with the biggest brands in the world to make sure that the experiences that we create match the expectations of the modern renter. And their expectations have changed a lot. One of the big things that we know to be true is that today's renter is always on. Our platform, we see over 50% of contacts come in when your office is closed. So you need to be making sure you're thinking about how you can respond to them when we see 53% happening after your office is closed, whether it's after 5 or depending how you staff on the weekends. The second thing is we know multi-touch is more alive than it ever has been before. I spent 7 beautiful years working in digital marketing and multifamily, and not only do we see them touching a lot of different technologies before they make a buying decision, our platform alone, we see a renter come to the platform 27 times before they even sign the lease. So they really are coming back to you early and often. We also know the expectation is personalization. They care a lot about the first search, the first query, and they care a lot about each and every individual interaction they have, both with the site team as well as all of those digital touch points. And they care about speed. You think about how you engage with a hotel brand or restaurant brand, whatever it might be, speed typically wins. The stat here is that when we look at across our platform, we see that you're 7 times more likely to get a conversion if you respond within the first hour. And when you marry that to the first reality that 53% of folks are coming in when you're closed, you have to make sure you have a strategy in place to capitalize on that 7-time opportunity. I want to talk to you a little bit about the forever renter. This is pretty impactful. There's a lot of stats on your screen. I think the top left one's actually surprising. 17% of renters have lived in the same apartment for over a decade. I had to fact check that one, but it's true. The second one, though, is what really caught my attention. 25% of millennials expect to rent for the rest of their lives. And if we zoom back to 2018, when we first started looking at this data, that stat has 2x'd. It was 12.5% in 2018. It's now 25%. And as we prepare for all of the new supply that's coming into the industry that you heard Igor talk about earlier, there's a massive opportunity here to make sure that the way that you create amenities and the way that you serve those renters aligns with this. And there's another thing that we all need to be like realizing, that we're not keeping up the pace that is being expected of us. Right now, rethinking the renter journey is a combination of technology, it's a combination of customer service, and it really aligns with the friction that most renters still feel today. It's a lengthy process. It takes a long time to search and find a home that somebody loves. Response times are slower than they should be in our industry. It's just a hard reality. And the third thing is that we're still bottlenecking residents with legacy in-person processes. And I just want you to imagine a world where we can ensure that the right home finds your renter. And then from that we can be instant in how we respond to them, 24/7, 365. And I just need to keep going back to that statistic that 53% of your inbound contacts are happening when your office is closed. And finally, making sure that self-serve is the name of the game. And walking the trade show floor this morning, it's very clear that that's a focus area that's here to stay. So curious, how many people have heard the word centralization in the last couple days? Every hand has to go up, because I know you're all here at NAA. It's definitely the thing right now, and I think it's here to stay. And I think it's also maybe a little bit misunderstood. And the way that we see it, my point of view as well, is that there's really three tranches that are important as you're stepping into centralization. First, like, what is centralization? How can you remove work that's happening at a singular site and put it into an environment where an office can take care of more than a couple of properties at the same time? That starts with operational change, defining what types of things do you want to centralize. Property admin is a really easy place to start. A lot of our customers are starting with admin, think collections. Rather than having your property team responsible, let's make a centralized office responsible for working on delinquencies and or collections. Then it becomes organizational change. Are we going to change the way that we're budgeting and funding roles on site? How are we going to think about our approach to headcount? There's a lot of work that's required there. And the tip of the iceberg, it's all about technology. But the reality is that if you go into the technology space too early without a plan, you'll fail. So we see a lot of opportunity to make sure that you go through it bottoms up versus top down. And I also want to make sure that my point of view comes through clearly, that centralization is important, but localization matters in a big way. That statistic that said 25% of people plan to rent forever, and 13% have been renting and living in the same place for a decade. It's really important that you still stay on top of your localization strategy, both from a marketing as well as from a renter engagement standpoint. So Gen AI is scary, it's big, it's real, and it's also here in a massive way. We look back at the race to 100 million, which is one of the most important technology indicators that companies have. How long does it take for a company to reach 100 million active users? It took Spotify 7 years. It took TikTok almost a year. It took them 11 and a half months. ChatGPT, they got there in less than 2 months. So Gen AI is being adopted at such a massive pace, and that's really been the name of the game for why Gen AI is ready and why it's here. And I think one of the most important things that I want everyone to be thinking about is that our residents and our potential renters, they're already experiencing this. It's impacting their day-to-day lives, their day-to-day brand experiences, and those expectations have now been placed on you, the property manager, to make sure that you can deliver that exact same experience, whether it's through Gen AI or other rich technology that's available today. You think Alexa, you think Siri, you think Netflix, and the ability to serve recommendations that are warm and real time and always evolving, and of course, everything that Tesla's doing. I think that expectation is going to continue to compound over the coming years. And Gen AI is also incredibly impactful as you look at the actual data. One of the cool things about Gen AI is that it can now understand language. It can understand sentiment. It can really make sure that when it's conversing with an individual, it's having a conversation with just Sebastian, which is a really unique way to think about that conversation. Is someone upset? Are they angry? Is it time for a human handoff? That's what Gen AI can do. Secondarily, it's having human-like dialogue, and there's a lot we can automate from a technology standpoint. We can control latency. How long do we want to wait until we respond to somebody? There's a lot that goes in here to make sure the experience we deliver is human-like and going to deliver the experience they expect. And of course, it can automate a lot. So you think about marketing, you think about resident engagement. There's a lot to be said about how you can use it. It's a big part of our platform today, and we're just getting started, which has us feeling really, really excited. So I want to start talking a little bit about our product, Leah Pro, and a little bit of the aspects that are available today for everyone here at NAA Apartmentalize. Leah Pro is our generative AI agent, and she sits omni-channel. So with the ability to handle email, phone, text, and chat. And it's an incredible product. We've been at it for a couple of years. We've got some great data I'll walk you through. And this is all Gen AI driven today. This is just a brief example of what Leah Pro can handle for any property right now, starting with answering questions, inbound requests that come through, the ability to handle those questions, whether it's a chat bot on the website, text. I'll show you the voice demo at the very end. Secondly, it's really important to understand intent. The thing about Gen AI that's so incredible is that it can have an actual conversation. So if a renter comes in and asks about your pet policy, we're not just going to say, yes, we allow pets. We're going to open up a conversation to make sure we understand what kind of pet do you have, and is it within an arena where our AI can say yes or no. And that context is incredibly important. Tours, name of the game. We want to make sure we're driving qualified tours that show up. So the ability to handle the follow-ups is also a big part of that. How did the tour go? And how can we feed that data back into your team to continually optimize? And we're omni-channel. So the nice thing about this is as someone comes in, let's say through a phone call, we're able to take that conversation through all of the places that they're engaging with us today. So if they come in from voice, we can pick up into a text conversation, carry that into email. The ability to know Mark and carry the conversation with him all the way through is an incredible ability about, not just Gen AI, but this specific program. And one of the things that I've been really impressed with, I'm new, I've only been at Apartmentalize for about 2 months, is that it's proactive, it's warm, and it's intuitive. And I think when you engage with AI, you want to make sure that you feel like you're being engaged with one-to-one, not one-to-many. And there's a lot to be said about the language that you're using. How are you asking questions? How are you responding? And I think there is a ton that's happening right now that's impacting sentiment, even the degree that I was talking to a customer earlier today, and they said the number one question they get when someone shows up for a tour is, can Leah do our tour? And that's a really incredible testament to show that the experience that's happening digitally is carrying into what the expectations are when people show up in person for that tour. And I'm going to end with a little bit of social proof, just a couple stats to kind of show the impact that we're seeing as we start to roll this program out at scale. We're saving hours per week, which has been huge. We're seeing a significant impact in conversion, especially since we sit omni-channel and again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I have not yet mentioned, but this is completely free if you advertise on our marketplace today, which helps with the ROI numbers. And my final slide for everybody today, please take a picture with this or call it now if you want to, but the demo is alive and well. You can turn this into a text, you can turn this into a phone call. I challenge you to try to confuse it. It's pretty incredible. And thank you a ton for being here today.